Welcome to the Garments Engage Crochet Podcast, where I chat about crochet garments and other yarny things. I am Michelle Ferguson, crochet pattern designer of Two Brothers Blankets. You can find me at twobrothersblankets.com, on Facebook and Instagram at Two Brothers Blankets, and right here on YouTube every week for this crochet podcast. I hope you'll hit that subscribe button, and if you'd like, you can click the bell right next to it, which will give you a notification every time I upload a new episode. I hope your week is going well. It's been kind of an eventful week here. We had hurricane/tropical storm Elsa come through up the west coast of Florida, which is where near where I live, the coast that I live closest to. So that was kind of eventful, but it ended up not doing too much damage, at least right where I am. Power never went out, nothing like that. So we're good now. The weather is beautiful again, and it's back to business as usual. So I'm super excited. We made it to 1,000 YouTube subscribers right here on this channel. Thanks to you guys. Thank you so much for subscribing to this channel, for watching this podcast. It means the world to me that you guys enjoy it and like it and want to see more of it. So I'm going to do a giveaway for reaching 1,000 subscribers, but I got to make sure I follow all the rules and know all the regulations and everything for YouTube giveaways. So I'm going to give you more information on that next week after I figure it all out. I just hit 1,000 last night. So got to do some research, got to make sure I'm following all the rules and all that, but giveaway is coming. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for your support. Today, I want to talk to you guys about something that I personally struggle with myself as a designer and crocheter. And it is tension. So tension, what is tension? Tension is how tight or how loose your stitches are when you crochet, or how tight or loose you are crocheting your stitches, basically. It's very important because it will determine how things fit, how big your items come out, how small, how stretchy they are, all this stuff, right? So tension is important. Tension, to keep a consistent tension, you are consistently holding your hook the same, working your stitches the same, not pulling or keeping, when you pull up a loop and all that, it's consistently the same. But it's extremely hard to keep your tension consistent throughout a project, especially a big project like a crochet sweater or top. So one of the most important ways to figure out your tension is your gauge. That is why us designers, and especially as garment designers or wearable designers, are so big on check your gauge, because that is your starting point for figuring out your tension and how it compares to the designer's tension. So your gauge, so when you see a gauge measurement, in the pattern, so many stitches by so many rows equals 4 inches. That is the designer's tension. That is what she or he got when they worked up their swatch in their hook that they chose for the design. And so in order for you to get that same amount of stitches in the 4-inch measurement, or whatever the gauge is, you have to work up a swatch and figure out what hook size works the best with your tension to meet that measurement and that number of stitches in that measurement. So gauge is super important. Gauge is your starting point for figuring out your tension, how it compares to the designer's, and how to make your garment fit. But here's the thing, and this is what I struggle with. Tension changes. Honestly, like I said, if you are working on a big project, sometimes your tension will get looser. Or sometimes if you're working, I find that if I'm working on something difficult or with a multifaceted stitch, cables or Tunisian or something like that, my tension will get tighter because I'm concentrating so hard on getting that, movement in or whatever, that I tighten up. But then if I'm working, when I'm working in the round for a bottom up project, and I'm just working in the round, same stitch, same way, same everything, I find that I loosen my tension a lot. So a lot of times when I'm working a bottom-up project, I'll start off good. I'll start off right on, matching gauge and the right measurement and everything, and then it'll just loosen up little by little by little. And by the top, it's like a whole half an inch to an inch bigger than it was at the bottom. I do this a lot. So what it is, it's basically, I am kind of getting lazy with my tension. I'm working the same stitch, I'm going at the same speed, or I'm speeding, watching TV, reading, listening to a book, whatever, and I'm getting lazy with my tension, and so I'm loosening up. I'm not working my stitches the same. I'm getting inconsistent with my tension in the way I'm holding my yarn or pulling up the loop. I'm yanking it up too high or whatever. I'm basically getting lazy with my tension. In that case, for loosening, and like I said, with tightening, I usually end up doing it when I'm really concentrating on something, or it's like you have like a triple crochet, you have to do multiple steps to get the stitch to go through, or a cable stitch or whatever. And I find that when I'm like concentrating super hard on it, I get too tight with my tension. Versus if it's the same stitch over and over and I'm not concentrating that much, I get too loose with my tension. So I just want to share some thoughts about it and ways you can adjust your tension. You can check your tension throughout. You can fix it if you mess up your tension, get inconsistent with your tension like I do, and stuff like that. So, like I said, the changes in the pattern, it changes within your pattern. So you meet your gauge stitch or your gauge swatch, and you got your correct hook, and you get started and you get working on it and you get into it and you get a little lazy with it, and then all of a sudden you're getting too big with it. For that, I recommend measuring often, trying on often, comparing it to your gauge often. If you are loosening up and you find that you're getting a little bigger, you can go down a hook size. You can also try to tighten that up a little bit, tighten up your tension to kind of bring it back in. Now, you don't want it to like do all this while you're, within the pattern, but just sort of tightening it back up and paying better attention to the stitches and your tension, how much you're pulling up and all that, usually can bring it back into the right measurement. Unless if you've done it for a while and it's just consistently getting bigger, you probably want to take all that out and get back to where you had the correct one, and then think about it. Don't get lazy with it. Tighten it up, keep it consistent, all that. Also, like I said, if it is a struggle and you find that it's just too much to try to keep it consistent or whatever, you don't want to worry about it, you could always go down a hook size or two to try to tighten that up through that way, stuff like that. So that's what I usually do. I don't love to pull out my project once I've started. And also, like, I know this is like probably not a good designer advice, but if it's a half an inch bigger, is that really going to matter that much in your garment? Like, if it's going to be huge, definitely you want to fix that. But I don't like pulling it out if I'm like half an inch bigger. You know what I mean? Like, so I will usually try to get more consistent with my stitching. And, figure out, sometimes it is different. Your gauge and tension is different when you're working in the round than when you're working in rows. So sometimes you do need to adjust that hook size for the garment, for the gauge to match gauge within the round, where you didn't need to do it in a square, like when you're making a 4x4 square. So just play with that as far as measuring, making sure you're staying consistent, being aware of it, and making the adjustment of either tightening up when you're too loose or adjusting your hook size. Now, say you're working too tight and the tension is very tight and it's hurting your hands, or you're finding that it's getting too small or it's not stretching enough or whatever. Some things you can do for that is to go up a hook size, make it so your stitches are a little bit bigger by doing that. It's the same way with when it's too loose. You could think about your consistency. You could loosen up, try to loosen up a little bit, loosen up your hands a little bit. Try to do that and just be aware of how, your consistency, you're pulling up, how much you're pulling up on your stitches. If you're barely pulling up any, try to pull up a little more. Stuff like that. Just be very aware of your tension and all that. And I know that's hard, and especially with garments. Like, you just want to work on it and be done and wear the thing, right? So it's hard, like I said, and I don't like pulling apart a halfway done garment because I've gone up a half an inch or down a half an inch in certain area or whatever. So it's easy to adjust. Just, you can change your hook size, go up a hook size or two. Be very aware of your stitching and how you're working it and your consistency and stuff like that. Also, your tension can vary with your hook or with the yarn that you're using. So you might make a top in, I have the Beach Bound tank on right now. You might make this top in cotton, which is a cotton linen blend. And then you want to make a new one, but you want to make it in an acrylic yarn, an acrylic DK yarn. You might find that your tension and your gauge is quite different from the cotton blend, because cotton just feels different when you're crocheting with it. It's not always as smooth going with your stitching. Or if you're using, so I'm using a tweed yarn for a project right now, and I find that those little pieces of tweed sometimes get into the stitch right when I'm, right where I'm pulling or whatever, pulling up a loop or whatever, and it makes the stitch too big or too small or whatever. Or I'm trying to get past that tweed, so I tighten up on pulling up my loop, and the stitch is really tiny, or the other way around, it's really big. So the yarn you use will definitely affect things like your tension and your gauge and your amount of stitches per inch or whatever. So you definitely want to keep that in mind and be aware of it. Like I said, it's so easy to get lazy with a crochet garment, because a lot of it is like this whole tank top is repetitive herringbone half double crochet, not for all of it, but for most of it. And so it's easy to just get into this rhythm and not pay attention to how your tension is, how you are holding the stitch and holding the yarn, or creating the stitch. So be aware of that. The yarn will have an effect on your tension, and so you can't just assume that, oh, I made this in a cotton blend and I used an H hook, so I'm going to use an H hook for the acrylic. You cannot just assume that your tension and your gauge are going to be the same, because if the yarn varies, or if you're using a different brand of hook or whatever, you want to check your gauge and continue to check your tension. So recently I came across, while I was researching all this, I came across a tension regulator, I think is what they're called. And there's all different kinds. There's the one I saw on Amazon was like a ring, and you wear it on your finger, like your pointer finger, and you put the yarn, hook the yarn in it, and it kind of just pulls from the ring, your yarn, from your ball of yarn through to the ring and then to your project. And it's supposed to regulate the tension of your yarn. So see, I wrap, and I know I do it not so good, and I don't have, here we go, I'm not so great about it, because I wrap, it's just how I learn. I wrap it around my pointer finger twice, and I pull from there. And so sometimes if it's a really difficult yarn to work with, like it's not very smooth, I can be yanking kind of, sorta. And I have this teeny tiny hook. Let me see if I can show you how I do it. But so basically the tool would take care of that so see, I kind of just move my finger and it slides around my finger. So stuff like this cotton blend or something that's not so smooth, sometimes it can be too much. So I know it's not very good. So the regulator might actually be good for me. There's crochet versions where you crochet a little sleeve for your finger and the yarn goes through the stitches, and it's supposed to just consistently regulate the the way the yarn is coming out from the ball to your stitching. So I have not tried one. I'm gonna buy one and maybe make one and give it a go and do it as one of my brutally honest yarn reviews. But I had never heard of these before. So if you've used one of these tension regulators, I think or stitch tension regulators is what they're called, I think. Let me know in the comments. Do you like them? Does it work? Do you think it helps keep your tension consistent? I will definitely be getting one of those and trying it out. Plus it's really cute. It's like a ring and it kind of wraps it around twice. And I think the one I saw had like a dolphin on it maybe or something. It was cute. So it's cute and useful. But let me know if you've tried one of those because I really want to know. I asked on my Instagram and only like 1 or 2 people had tried them, I think. So would love to know. Okay. Some other tips is, like I said, just measure often, stop every 10 rows or rounds or 20, however many, every 3 inches, I don't know, and measure, check. Make sure you're being consistent with your tension, and try on often. If you're working a garment, you want to try on often. And like I said, don't beat yourself up about it if you do. I mean, I struggle with this, which is hard because my gauge needs to be consistent, like my stitches need to be consistent with my gauge so that my math measure or comes out correctly and my garment fits correctly. You know what I mean? Like I'm the designer, I got to get it right. So there's a lot of stopping, measuring, trying on, tightening up, loosening up, all this when I'm working a design. So it doesn't, if you're just making a top for yourself and you don't have you're not making it for somebody or whatever, designing it, you don't have to be as super strict on yourself about it, but you definitely want it to fit and fit correctly. So do keep that in mind. Try to stay focused on your tension, on your measurements, on your fit. And if you do that, even if you're a little bit off here or there, you're going to be okay and it's going to fit and it's going to look good. So those are my thoughts and tips on tension. It's a struggle for me too. So I just thought we'd chat about it. Let me know, do you struggle with tension? Do you have a trick or tip that works for you that helps you keep your tension consistent? I would love to know because I really need to work on that as well. All right, let's get into what is in my WIP bag. So still working on commission design. I designed for Shandy of Expression Fiber Arts. And so if you haven't seen yet, she actually just released another one of my designs, the Montestrea tee, that you can grab now. If you don't follow her, so she's a hand-dyed yarn company, but she also has crochet patterns, knitting patterns, all kind of stuff. And she releases her new patterns each week and they're free to start, like for a limited time. I don't know the exact timeline that she has them for free, but they're usually free. So I'm not positive that the Montestrea tee is free right now, but if you keep up with her, get her email list, get on her email list or whatever, when she releases another one, it's usually free to start and then it's like limited time and then it goes to $5, I think. So still a good price. And she has the beautiful yarn that goes with it. I absolutely adore working with her yarn. The Montestrea tee is a beginner friendly tee. It's worked in a circular yoke. You can find it on my Ravelry shop page. I'll link it. And then as well as on her site. So anyways, I designed for her and I'm working on a fall design for her right now and it's taking me a little longer than I planned, but that's okay. I want it to look perfect for her. And it's like I said, I adore working with her yarn. So if you haven't checked her out, check her out. So working on that still, can't show you though, but I do have this new yarn that I'm trying out. So apparently it's not Hobby, it's Hobbii. I do not know, honestly. It's Hobbii. And that is the name of the company. I think it's Hobbii now. I was saying Hobby. But this is their alpaca silk. And so they reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to take their #Junior Challenge, which is where you make a fall pattern, like you make a fall project or design, using one of their yarns. I think all of them are DK or sport weight for the youngest, the littlest person in your life. And so, my sister and her 2 boys moved here in January, and my youngest nephew is 14 months. 14 months today, actually. And I have decided I'm going to make him a Parker baseball tee with this yarn. They send me the yarn to try out and give my thoughts on and review. So it's 70% alpaca, 30% mulberry silk. So this is like a super nice, super soft yarn. It's DK weight. Did I say that already? I think it's a DK weight. Now I can't find it. Well, it's a DK. Oh, no, it's a super fine. It's a 1. Super fine. Well, that explains why I had to go up a hook size. It's a number 1. So anyways, and the Parker baseball tee calls for a sport. So I somehow mixed that up. But maybe I thought it was a sport. Too new. But anyways, it works. I met gauge. I did have to go up a hook size. Maybe 2. But I worked up a swatch and washed it. It is a little fuzzy, but it actually, it held up really well. I was, at first, when I first washed it, I was like, ooh, it's not gonna look good washed. But it looks really nice. You hand wash it. This is one of those really nice, it's alpaca and silk, hand wash, don't dry it, lay it flat to dry kind of thing. So at first I was like, ooh, it kind of looks really fuzzy, but once it dried, it was very nice. It did grow a little, I think about 1/2 inch. But I think it'll work. We'll see. I might have to design something new because I did not realize it was a number 1 weight. But yeah, I'm doing the junior challenge. So I am going to start on that here soon. And I've also, I didn't grab it. I've also started the fall garment. Now this definitely will be pushed back to September. The stroll tweed garment that I have been telling y'all about, it's going to get pushed back to September right around my birthday. So that'll be a fun design release around my birthday. But I did start it, so I'll have to be sure to show you that next week for sure. And hopefully, I will finally be done with the commission design. But yeah, that's what I'm working on. Okay, so for today's Brutally Honest review, I want to review my Swift and yarn ball winder. I've gotten requests for this one and finally got it set up where I can show you guys. So this is my Swift. I've had this thing for about 2 years, I think, 3, maybe longer. I don't know, a couple years, decent amount of time. It is a portable one. I guess you would consider it portable. I got it on Amazon. I don't think the actual listing is available anymore, but I do have another option for you. And then there's also the ones that Crochet.com, We Crochet, and Knit Pick sell. And theirs, I believe, folds open and shut and clamps onto the table like my yarn ball winder does. My yarn ball winder is a manual yarn ball winder. I got it from Knit Picks years ago. I've had this one for a really long time. And then I finally jumped on the Swift wagon and I will never, ever go back. So anyways, let me show you how everything works. So like I said, this one's kind of portable. All this comes out, including the middle. And you got your 2 pieces and 2 more pieces right here. So it's all this. And what I love about it is it will just lay flat in a drawer or a cabinet. It could go in a bag very easily and you could take it with you. And it's just a really simple Swift that's truly portable. So what you do is you put your 2 bottom pieces, then you take these 2 long pieces and you take your smallest little peg right here and stick it in there if I can find it. Okay, so then you have these 4 pegs that you can put, and there's a number of different holes. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 holes on each leg of it. So you can stick it however you want. You can adjust it for depending on what your yarn, how far your yarn will go and all that, which is super nice as well. That's the difference with the ones that fold. You can fold them way out or way like smaller to adjust your yarn, how tight your yarn is in that case. Okay, so you take like a hank of yarn that needs to be caked into a ball, and some scissors. You'll need some scissors. So this attaches to a table like this, or like it screws tight to a table or a shelf or a desk or whatever. And I'm left-handed, so it might be different. If you're right-handed, you might do the other side, but I've got it attached. I've got my Swift up here in front of it, sort of, to this front side. Do whatever works best for you. You probably will need a decent amount of space for it. So then you undo your yarn. Let's see if I can do this seated. And see, I will probably need to adjust. See, it's tight. So what I'll do is bring these in on two sides. And it's a little tight still, so I think I'll bring them in some on the other two sides as well. So there you go. You have it laid out onto your Swift. And then you're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut the little strands that hold it all together and take those off. These are also from WIP Crochet, and they are my favorite. They come with a little cap because they're so sharp. I'll link them in the description. Love them. I have like 4 pair. All right, so then you take your scissors, I said that already, and cut. Okay, so when you cut one of the strands, you'll have 2 ends that's what you will wind. Now, it doesn't always go perfectly smoothly, so like this one's kind of tangled within the yarn, especially if it's looser or just the way it's wound or hanked up. It depends. Sometimes it goes really smooth, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so I got my end that is going around the smoothest, the easiest. And I put it in between this little doodad here. We don't know the name of that. I don't know the name of that. And then it has, the winder has little slits right here that you stick the yarn in. So then you're going to want to hold your yarn to keep like a tension as you're doing it. So it tells you which way to turn the handle. So you turn the handle in this direction and it starts to wind. And as you can hear, it squeaks. It probably needs some oil or something. But then it'll move the Swift and you cake your yarn. And I'm gonna just keep rolling and show you what it looks like at the end. Okay, so I've wound it and I've pulled up my top piece, which is the what went into the slits. Now this was a worsted weight yarn, so it didn't do as pretty as sometimes the fingering weights and lighter weights look. I will say this yarn ball winder doesn't hold much more than like 300 yards. It does better with smaller skeins. But it works. So then you just lift it off and you have a nice cake of yarn. Game changer, really. So and then I like just squish a little of the end and lay it on top. Like I said, game changer. I give this combo a 10 out of 10. No matter what Swift you buy, a Swift and a yarn ball winder is just a must for me now. I went years without it, and then I just bought the winder thinking, oh, I'll just wrap it around something else, which works, but it's a lot more, like a lot slower of a process if you just like wrap it around a chair or something like that, or have someone hold it. It's still a slower process. This makes it very fast and simple. And These run, I think, like depending on what you buy, if you buy this like portable version, table version, or the kind that clips on and folds, the price varies, I think, between like 30 and 50 bucks, depending on which kind you buy. I will link a few for you to look at in the description. And then this exact one runs at like $20, I think, right at $20 or $25. Super affordable. There's all different kinds of these too. I like the manual kind the best because just the electric one scares me, like the thought of it. Like what if it like starts eating my yarn or something? So I like the manual one. I like this one for the most part. It's held up for years. Like I said, I've had it at least 6 years, I think. So it's held up. It's squeaky for sure, but probably a little drop of oil could help that, I think. It's portable, it's easy. I usually have this on a table in my office. I just untwisted it or undid the little screw and attached it to my dining room table right here. This is pretty portable. They're both really easy to move and maneuver and use. 10 out of 10, must have, love these. If you want to like up your crochet game, get you a Swift and a yarn ball roller or winder. Get them together, maybe ask for them for your birthday or a holiday or something. They coincide, they work together, they work best together, and they will be most useful to you together. So 10 out of 10, my favorite essential, like these are essential in my crochet business, my crochet, just even if it was just a hobby or, you know, I just like to do projects and I wasn't running a business, I would definitely want to have one of these either way. So highly recommend. No brutal anything in any of this. They are my favorite combo. So 10 out of 10. And I'll leave descriptions for all, or links for all of it in the description for you to check out for yourself. Well, I hope this was a good review and a good episode for you. I hope you learned some things and those tips were helpful. Be sure to leave your own tips and suggestions in the comments below. Next week, we have another designer interview to share, so I'm excited for that, and I'll see you then. Be sure to subscribe. Bye.